Well, it looks like we're on the air, and I don't know anyone that's connected already, so we may just be talking to the folks on the stream. My name is Jeff Good, and I'll be throwing up a graphic here real quick for Barb Moore. And if you have any questions along the way, Barb certainly can, we'll get that lower third up here. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask Barb. Make sure our audio is up. Looks like you're solo.
All right, all right.
You need the chat up there too, Barb?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Thanks. Okay. Well, hello, everyone. If you're coming in live, I hope you get to the link and are able to get with us. If you're watching the stream, you'll be hearing me in a minute or two. I'd like to welcome you to our September Google Hangout, the first in a series of Hangouts that we'll be doing for the Teacher Showcase over the next part of the school year. I'm Barbara Moore, and I work for Western Reserve Public Media, the Ed Services Division, and I'll be conducting each of the Hangouts. You met Jeff Good a few seconds ago, and Jeff is actually our Hangout guru, and he's the one that put together the Google Plus Hangout for us to be able to do this with. As you can see, Jeff has provided links at the top of the September page so that everyone can get in. I don't see anyone here live, so I guess there must be a handful of you who are actually watching the stream on the YouTube. Jeff will be jumping in periodically to answer any questions you may have about the training and about any technical issues you may be coming upon. At the end of the Hangout, we will be posting a link to the archived YouTube video of each of the month's Hangout. So check there at the end. It'll take a little bit for them to get there, but we will have those posts there. A couple of housekeeping things. Each month when we do our Hangouts, we would like for the people who are actually on the teams to be part of the live stream. And so if there are any of you who are iTip Ohio folks or content experts who are actually in the live stream, we would ask you to go over to the streaming video, and that will be operating on a 1 to 2 minute delay. If you're joining us live, be sure that your mic is muted. If you want to make a comment or ask a verbal question, you can always unmute your speaker or your microphone. You can talk, you can ask your question, and then you can click on your mic to mute it and to listen. You can also go down to the comment section and type in any question that you might have, and Jeff will get those questions to me. He'll be monitoring that, and he'll get them to me in my chat, and we will then be able to answer your questions on the live feed. Today's activity is that we are going to discuss an overview of the driving question. And the driving question is a very integral part of the project-based learning project that you're going to be putting together. There is a summary video on the Teacher Showcase website. It's done by Tony Vincent, and I would say here that we are neither endorsing Tony Vincent nor recommending his organization for project-based learning training. Each of the ed tech agencies that you're working with the Teacher Showcase provides project-based learning training and can do that as a part of your Showcase project extended professional development. So let's get started on talking a little bit about your project-based learning driving question. In a traditional classroom, the teacher asks maybe 350 questions a day, and most are directed questions, or otherwise known as lower level questions, and some are open-ended or higher level questions. In the project-based learning classroom, students should be given as many open-ended questions as possible to allow them to research and investigate and reflect before responding. That way, students are given the opportunity to combine what they are learning factually in innovative and meaningful ways. Open-ended questions have lots of possible answers, and this allows all students to participate and to look deeper into the topic that they're researching. The answer to an open-ended question can be in the form of a hypothesis, of an opinion, of a concept, of an idea, or maybe even a series of research-based facts. In many circumstances, it's not the answer itself that's important, but the processes that the students use to answer the question when responding to an open-ended question. Open-ended questions can be very challenging and exciting for students to answer. It's important, though, that students develop a good, firm foundation of knowledge to be able to answer the questions so that they don't become confused or discouraged or frustrated. We would define an open-ended question by saying that there are 4 components. They're based on concepts or on ideas. They have at least one and hopefully more than one correct answers. They encourage all students to participate, and they require students to do some research, to investigate, or to reflect before responding. In the project-based learning classroom, directed questioning is also important. The definition of a directed question is that they are based on facts, they have one correct response, and they support the development of a deeper understanding through open-ended questions. By asking a combination of open-ended questions and directed questions, we should be able to draw out deeper thinking in our students while teaching them key facts. Open-ended questions prompt our students to expand the way they think about a topic, while directing questions guide their thoughts and encourage them to make connections. In the project-based classroom, the driving question focuses all other questions in a project. So we build our driving question with both directed questions that lead to open-ended questions, and then finally to the driving question. As you think about the questions that you're going to be asking your students, you should be asking to help students complete a project. Picture a pyramid with directed questioning forming the very base. Directed questions, which do form the base, allow students to build a knowledge base of factual information. They occur in the greatest numbers, but their answers are the least complex. At the next level of the pyramid, the directed questions are down here. At the next level of the pyramid, students combine the facts that they learned at the bottom to form concepts that allow them to answer the open-ended questions. At the very top of the pyramid, up here, the culmination of these concepts are going to lead them to answer 1 or 2 driving questions, the answers to which are the most complex and encompassing. So let's talk for just a minute about effective driving questions. Driving questions in educational lingo are also called essential questions or project questions or umbrella questions. Effective driving questions include about 10 different features that I'll talk about just briefly and then give you some more information. Effective driving questions are open-ended, always open-ended, and they lead the students to debate and to discussion, and are therefore motivating to them. They're also objective, and they do not imply whether something is good or bad, right or wrong, better or worse. Driving questions should focus and drive the project. Students use the question as a springboard to formulate their own questions. All learning and research in the project is geared toward answering the driving question. Driving questions focus on key understandings. Generally, each project will have about 5 overarching ideas, and the driving question encompasses all of them. Fifth, students are able to answer the driving question, and while it shouldn't be an easy process, it should be manageable. Good driving questions require research, investigation, and reflection. And while they may have yes or no answers, students need to be able to support their answers with the research and the knowledge they have acquired throughout the project. Driving questions should also call on a student's previous knowledge and help them apply their learning to new situations. And they should link basic skills and concepts to students' lives and their real world, which will make them more motivated and more involved in the topic that they're researching. Driving questions also integrate standards from a variety of disciplines. Interdisciplinary lesson plans allow for teamwork among others with you at your school, and they encourage students to make connections they wouldn't normally see for themselves. And finally, the driving question encourages multiple approaches to problem solving and allows for more than one way to solve a problem and to express the solution. As you write your driving questions, there are 5 steps that you can follow. You can review your key understandings and standards. Look for the big ideas or concepts within your existing curriculum and, of course, within your state standards. Second, as you write your questions, brainstorm a list of the possibilities for open-ended questions that link to at least of these big ideas or concepts. An example would be if you would like students to understand the impact of discrimination on their lives, and you would like them to understand the civil rights movement in this country, you could connect those 2 big ideas by creating a driving question like, how does the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s impact my life today? The third step in writing a driving question is that you want to review your questions. See if you can make the question more succinct. Maybe you could make the question less leading and more exciting for students. And maybe you can ask yourself if your question gets at the key understandings and the standards that you've chosen for your project. The fourth step is that you want to identify your best questions. Which questions do you think would motivate your students the most? Which questions are more closely tied to your key understandings? And are there questions that subsume other questions? And finally, ask your audience. Give a list of questions to the students to see which questions they find motivating and exciting. Some examples of good open-ended driving questions would be, how does your school impact the environment? How does free speech mean you can say anything? Or does free speech mean that you can say anything? How does discrimination impact me? What are the ingredients for a successful business? And one final driving question might be, how does art reflect the time period in which it is created? The information that I've shared to you today about driving questions comes from the work of R.J. Dake. And it was actually done in the 1980s when project-based learning was just getting started. I've put a link on the website to a larger document by Dake that I am hoping will guide you in creating the driving question for the project. It's been something that I've used in teaching project-based learning a number of times, and the teachers who have been involved in the courses have really liked the document. And I offer at this time a reminder that you should be connecting with your content experts and that your project lesson plan is due to them by November 3rd. You should be receiving an email shortly from Amy Palermo providing you with additional information about that project plan. You can find a template for your lesson plan under Project Info, then Showcase Files on the Teacher Showcase website. Now, I know that it took a little while for some of you to be able to observe the live broadcast, and we have a few minutes remaining for questions. If any of you would like to ask a question at this point in time, you can go ahead and put it into the comment section, and Jeff will forward it to me in my chat room. And remember, if you think of something after this Hangout is over, don't forget that you can record questions on a Padlet page that you can reach through the October Hangout page as well. At the end of the live broadcast, we will be posting a link to the video itself on our YouTube page. So that will also be on the Teachers Showcase page on the website. Thank you. I'm glad you were here with us today, and we'll stay around for some questions if you have any.
John Darko has a question and has asked you to review the 5 keys to a driving question.
Okay, John, I'll be glad to do that for you in just a minute. Let me get to them. The 5 steps you can follow in writing a driving question are: first, review your key understandings and standards, and look for big ideas or concepts that you already have to teach, that are in your curriculum, and that are part of your state standards. So that's the first thing that you do. See what you can find within your standards and your curriculum that you want to build your project from. Second, you want to brainstorm a list of possible open-ended questions that link a couple of these big ideas and concepts together. And the example that I gave was that if you would like your students to understand the impact of discrimination on their lives, and that would be one concept. And if you would like them to also understand the civil rights movement in this country, you could connect those 2 concepts, which are within the state standards, and you could create a driving question like, how does the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s impact my life today? The third thing that you want to do is you want to review your questions, and I'm assuming that you would probably do that as a group. See if you can make the question more succinct, make it more focused on what it is you want the students to know and be able to do when they're done with the project. Maybe you could make the question a little less leading and more exciting for the students. And remember, you want to take it back to the things that they already know in their knowledge base, and also things that are interesting to them in their own lives. And then ask yourself if your question gets at the key understandings and standards of your project. Take it back to those key things that you thought were important. Fourth, you need to identify your best questions. Which questions do you think would motivate your students the most? Which questions are more closely tied to your key understandings? And are there questions that subsume other questions that you could link together to make one or two big driving questions? And the final thing that I suggest to you is that you ask the students. Give them a list of questions that you're thinking about using to create your project, and ask which of those questions the students would find most interesting and motivating. Hope that answers your question, John. Anything else? Jeff's waiting for you. Okay, well, thank you for joining us today, and I think that we will close the broadcast, and we're going to put the overlay back up on the screen, and that has the information about, you see that my information is down at the bottom of the screen right now and has been, and the overlay then is going to sit there for a few minutes until everybody has had a chance to log out. There's more information about the presentation and the final evaluation, which we ask each of you to do at the website, at the address that is given there on your screen at this point in time. Thank you.